Hey guys, welcome back to Hope, Heal, and Shine. I'm Michelle, and this week we are learning about victim blaming. Welcome back to the channel, guys. This week we're going to be talking all about victim blaming, including what it is, why it logically never makes sense to blame the victim, why it's never helpful, why people do it anyway, examples of what can be considered victim blaming, and what you can say instead. So since we've got a lot to cover this week, I'm just going to jump right in with a quick definition. Victim blaming is putting either partial or complete responsibility for the crime on the shoulders of the victim instead of the perpetrator. Why is it never logical to blame the victim? It might not be the best decision to leave your car running outside your house. But does that mean that your neighbor, if they see it, has no choice but to steal your car? And therefore, does your forgetfulness or poor choice in leaving your car running, does that make it no longer illegal for someone to steal your car? Does it make it their right to steal it? Does it make it your fault? No to all of the above. That person will still be charged with grand theft auto because they made the decision to take something that was not theirs and that they had no right to forcibly take, even if you made a decision which others might consider stupid. Guess what? We're all human and we all make stupid decisions at times. This does not ever mean that someone is entitled to rape you if you find yourself on the wrong side of the town or having drank too much, wearing something they consider to be flirtatious, or going on a date with a total scumbag. Their choice to commit a crime is no less a choice or a crime because of the actions of their victim. Point number 3, why is it never helpful to blame a victim? When we become victims of a crime, it is very normal for us to rethink in our head all of the things we could have done differently to avoid this. We do not need somebody else speaking into those thoughts we are already having. Doing so only adds more shame and worsens those feelings of self-blame that the victim is already experiencing. Not only that, but we don't know who else around us may have been victimized and is being affected by the words that you are saying, even if it's not directed towards them. When we only focus on the actions of the victim as opposed to the perpetrator, we are socially letting the rapist off the hook. We are cultivating and creating a society of rape culture because we are not holding the rapist accountable for his or her actions. And instead, we are pushing victims into silence and perhaps prolonging their healing process by years with our hurtful words, making it harder for victims to come forth and share their story for fear of being blamed for it, and making it easier for rapists to get away with their crimes because their victims are being frightened into silence. By making victim blaming comments on the internet, to friends, or even within our own home, we are creating a society of rape culture where rape is going to become more and more prevalent because victims are not being believed. So why should they speak out? So even with all of this, why do people still choose to victim blame? I personally feel that the biggest reason people victim blame is because it gives them a false sense of control. Looking at every little detail of what the survivor could have done differently and then vowing to do those things differently yourself is not a guarantee that nothing bad will ever happen to you. It is perhaps a very uncomfortable and very unsettling truth to accept that sometimes bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. And we don't always have 100% control of everything that will ever happen to us or our families or our loved ones in this life. The good news with that is that ultimately we do have control over our lives, not because we can control every outcome and everything that's ever going to go on in the world, but because we control us. And even if for a short time someone has ripped that control away from us, you can still choose to have a beautiful and happy life regardless of the decisions of others or tragedies that come. Another reason people tend to victim blame is as a way of distancing themselves from the victim. So many people decide to shame the victim as opposed to having empathy for them as a way of distancing themselves from hard emotions. Shame is the opposite of empathy, and empathy requires us to feel those hard emotions with the victim. And that is just a place a lot of people are absolutely unwilling to go. And that tendency to avoid hard emotions has nothing to do with the victim and everything to do with the victim blamer being unwilling or unequipped to handle those hard emotions. It doesn't take much to look around our society and see that so much of what we deal with is based around not feeling emotions. People would rather escape their pain by using drugs, alcohol, binge watching TV, diving into video games, or even getting lost in their social media feeds. Not very many people were taught how to process emotions in a healthy way, and so they turn to an escape instead. You're not willing to feel the hard emotions with that person. You're not willing to accept that we live in a world where bad things sometimes happen to good people. So you would rather shame this person as a way of escaping the pain of feeling that emotion with them, as a way of escaping the reality that sometimes a person has horrific things done to them and they didn't deserve it. It is so much easier for someone to bury their head in the sand and pretend like the world is not that way, like the world is completely fair, and that if I do good things will happen to me. Sadly, we live in a fallen, imperfect world, and it is not that way. Good things sometimes happen to people who don't deserve it, and bad things so often happen to good and innocent people. I'm not trying to say this to be depressing, because I really do think that there's so much hope and goodness and light in the world. I truly believe that we have full control over our destinies because we get to choose how we respond to the things that happen to us in our life. But I think that to courageously face the world head on, we have to be genuine and honest about what the world is. We can't go into it blindfolded and hope that we stumble across a good life. It's not going to work that way. Seeing the darkness for what it is gives us the strength to overcome it. And part of seeing the darkness for what it is means feeling that pain and feeling those hard emotions, either when it's ourselves going through it or when it's somebody else going through it. We need empathy and love to conquer that darkness, because ignoring it, piling shame onto others, and hiding out pretending like the world isn't bad, you're only putting yourself in the darkness. You're never going to escape it. So be brave, go through the pain, go through the healing, feel the emotions. That is how you begin to process and heal. And as much as we want to hate on victim blamers, when you understand the reasons they're doing it, you can actually empathize with the fact that they probably don't know how to cope with any hard emotion in their life, and their go-to is to not only shame others, but probably also to shame themselves for not being in control of hard things happening, which is a really sad life. And when you can understand that, you understand that victim-blaming comments don't have to have power over you. And instead of feeling hurt by those comments, we can feel sorry for those people, because how sad is it when you have to turn to making comments like that about somebody on the internet? What kind of comments are you making to yourself? The way people choose to treat you is always based on who they are and not on who you are. Remembering that helps you maintain your power and walk away from those comments unharmed. A third common reason I think people victim blame is because they are defending the accused perpetrator. I know that was a huge factor in the way that my friends responded to me when I first told them about my rape. Looking back now, I can see it probably wasn't the best choice to confide in our mutual best friends, because in our minds, we so often label every person who has ever sexually assaulted another person as a complete monster. And so if they personally know this person and know that they have good qualities and they're not a complete monster, well, therefore, the accusation must be inaccurate. In reality, it's a lot more complicated than someone just being a villain in a fairy tale. Everyone has both good and bad in them. And oftentimes, the parts of them that are darkest are the things that they are best at keeping hidden. I personally do not think that every person who has sexually assaulted or raped another is 100% a complete monster, the worst person in the world, with zero redeeming attributes. I just don't think that's true. I think it's more complicated than that. I think those people might have a lot of good qualities and talents and abilities and also choose to do really, really bad things. One last thought about why some people empathize more with the rapist than they do with their victim is cited in several studies showing the connection between aggressive and rape culture pornography and our empathy towards rape victims. And while this does not mean that everyone who ever views pornography will be a rapist, obviously not, there is a strong connection between the way that pornography industry normalizes rape culture and the way that its viewers treat rape victims in the real world, including having the belief that women secretly want to be raped. That was my abuser's point of view, for sure. And that is one reason he will never consider that he did anything wrong, because from his perspective, he was doing me a favor. Studies also show that after men view porn, they are more likely to have decreased empathy towards rape victims, believe that a woman who dresses provocatively deserves to be raped, have anger at women who flirt but don't have sex, and report increased interest in coercing partners into unwanted sex acts. I will talk more on the connections between pornography and rape culture in a future video. To end with, I want to share with you examples of what can be considered a victim-blaming comment and what you can say instead. Okay, but what was she wearing? She was flirting. She clearly wanted it. Well, that's what she gets for going somewhere by herself. Every woman knows that. Well, did you lead him on? Like, what were you doing? Yeah, they're married, so it can't be sexual assault. How much did you have to drink? Okay, why did they wait so long to report this? They clearly have a hidden agenda. She went to his house alone. What did she think was gonna happen? Okay, but she sleeps with everybody, so why didn't you just leave? Well, why didn't you scream or kick him in the groin and run away? Guys can be raped. All they ever want is sex anyway. Sounds like she just chose to have sex and then regretted it. That happens all the time. P.S. No, it doesn't. False reporting accounts for about 1% in rapes reported, which is the same rate across the board for every other crime. Additionally, any sentence that starts off, she should have known better than to, or I would never, or if it were me, I would have. Other harmful comments might include downplaying the severity of the action, which is another contributing factor to rape culture, which we will get into on another video. Things to say instead. I believe you. I am so sorry that this happened to you. It is not your fault. Do you want to talk about it? Please know that I'm here for you without judgment. I love you, and we are going to get through this together. Thank you so much for having the courage to reach out and tell me this. So here is my challenge for each of us. Anytime you see victim blaming occurring, say something. Speak out. You don't have to shame the victim blamer, but don't allow a victim blaming comment to pass by without speaking out and letting anyone who hears it know that that is not an appropriate comment. We never know how many people around us may be influenced by those comments, and we may be saving them years of struggle down the road by simply disagreeing with those comments and helping to educate the person who said them about what is helpful and what is accurate. You don't have to start a fight. You don't have to be rude. Be kind, be assertive, be firm, and speak up in defense of those who need you. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you learned something. Stay tuned next week for a week about finding hope. Check out the description for all the studies I cited, as well as all the resources I used to make this video. I will post them in the description down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you all again next Friday afternoon. Love ya. Bye.